Angrily fighting back against allegations of sexually groping women, calling the accusations a coordinated attack by the Clinton campaign and the media. I want to bring in now Gwenda Blair, the author of The Trumps, 3 Generations That Built an Empire. Harry Hurt is here as well. Harry Hurt III, author of Lost Tycoon, The Many Lies of Donald J. Trump, and Betsy McCaughey, the former Lieutenant Governor of New York, who is supporting Donald Trump. Great to have you all on. Thank you very much. Gwenda, when you hear that Access Hollywood tape, you read stories like the New York Times, what's your reaction?
It's the same guy. He was polite to me, do let me say that, but the same guy who's got to dominate, be in charge, alpha male. It's the same MO that he had when he burst into Manhattan 40 years ago, and it's what we've seen throughout the campaign on the stage when he had to be in charge of everything. He has to be in charge of women, he has to be in charge of everybody.
Yeah, and do you think that goes into inappropriately touching people or at least bragging about it?
Sure. I mean, he walks into a room, he wants to be in charge. He looks for who's the strongest person, he's going to take over. Did
you ever think he'd run for president?
This is the 6th time, so it wasn't exactly a shock, but this is obviously the most serious.
This far?
Well, this is the biggest contest. He's the most competitive guy ever. Mm-hmm. He's got to win, and what's the biggest contest there is?
Yeah. Betsy, I'm going to play this for you. This is what Donald Trump said about the New York Times story and the People magazine story. Listen to this.
You take a look at these people, you study these people, and you'll understand also. The claims are preposterous, ludicrous, and defy truth, common sense, and logic.
What is he saying, Betsy, you think? What does he mean when he says you look at these people, you study these people, and you'll understand?
I don't know, but he has been very clear about denying the allegations, and my view is this. You
don't know what he means?
No. To run the story, not to just mention it or have one segment on it, but for the media elite to run it 24 hours straight and keep going when it's only 26 days before an election is like condemning someone to electoral defeat without a trial. We believe people are innocent until proven guilty, but it's going to be long after this election is over before...
You think the media should ignore this?
No.
As someone who's running to be the leader of the free world?
Absolutely not. But to feature it as the only news, when in fact, let me just point out, this week there were some real WikiLeaks bombshells. Hillary Clinton has said she believes in open borders and open trade and a single hemisphere of common market.
We've discussed that, and I have to be very honest with you, Betsy. I watch a lot of media, and I read a lot of media, and I read even very conservative media.
You are the most well-informed guy.
For the most part, for the legitimate section of that media, they all agree, yes, WikiLeaks things are important. It's not the bombshell that many people, or bombshells that many people are making it out to be. Hold on, let me finish my thought and then you can weigh in. And that this particular issue, consider the gravity of it, it is no surprise that the media is picking it up and is running with it for the amount of time that the media is running with.
It is a grave issue. I'll make no bones about that. Look, I've been in the workplace a long time and incurred a lot of really unpleasant, awful sexual aggression, including from New York calls.
That is a legitimate issue.
Absolutely a legitimate issue. But I also look what's happening on college campuses today, where many young men are denied due process and just thrown out of college because it's always assumed the accusations are true. Sometimes they're proven untrue. I look at the Duke lacrosse team. I look at what happened at UVA. I remember Tawana Brawley.
Because we can we can cover that and this.
All I'm saying is that everybody deserves a fair trial. But in this case, when there's an election in 26 days, you're virtually condemning him to defeat without a trial.
And we also have to be fair and get other people on the panel on as well. So Larry, you wrote your book, Harry, which who I know, in 1993.
Correct.
Is this the same man? Is this man different from the man that you wrote about then?
No, it's absolutely the same. And here's the thing that people have ignored. In 1989, during their divorce proceedings, Donald Trump, according to the sworn testimony of his ex-wife, Ivana, came into the bedroom in Trump Tower and raped her.
And then she retracted that.
No, she did not retract it. No, she did not retract it. And in fact, this is the misconception that everyone said, which is why I brought my book here. I will tell you exactly what she did say. She said, and I quote, "Statement of Ivana Trump sent into my publisher in in 1993. Deposition given by me in connection with my matrimonial case, I stated that my husband had raped me. I wish to say that on one occasion during 1989, Mr. Trump and I had marital relations in which he behaved very differently toward me than he had during our marriage. As a woman, I felt violated. Okay, that's not a denial. I'm sorry. What she's saying here is there was non-consensual sex. There's also a context of this. What prompted this was that Donald had had an operation called scalp reduction to cover a bald spot on the back of his head at the hands of her plastic surgeon, Dr. Stephen Hoffman. He came in and started grabbing her hair on the corresponding spot where he'd had that operation, and then this rape occurred, okay? Rape is not an act of sex, it's an act of anger. This guy was enraged. She ran down to the bedroom normally occupied by her mother, closed the door, cried all night, and when she came out in the morning, he said, "Did it hurt?" This is according to her sworn testimony in a deposition.
Okay.
This is not a denial, Don.
Yeah, and producers are probably going to go a little bit longer because of this. I think it's an interesting conversation. How do you respond to that, Betsy?
That must be some book. Hold up the cover.
What do you think?
I'm being nice to Harry. We had a good time in the green room.
That's a serious allegation.
It is a serious allegation. I know that often, and look, I only want to get at the truth. As I said before, I abhor any kind of sexual rough stuff or abuse. It's a terrible thing.
This is
All women abhor it.
Yeah.
But I do also know that divorces can be rough and people say things they later regret.
Okay.
So that's where
Yes,
I am.
and sometimes the things they say are true.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
That's true also.
Gwenda, I want to ask you about this because you said that there are two things to you that you were struck by. First, the 1973 discrimination lawsuit against Donald Trump, and then when he called Hillary the devil in Sunday night's debate. Why were you struck by that?
Well, the 1973 event I was talking about was when Donald Trump sort of first came into Manhattan. Almost his debut, really, was when, and the Justice Department charged that the Trump Organization had not had been discriminated in rental policies towards African Americans.
Writing the C on there for colored, right?
Right, and so the Justice Department informed the Trump Organization that it was going to look into this. The next day, Donald Trump filed a lawsuit for $100 million against the Justice Department, which at the time was a colossal amount of money, a huge amount of money. Even now, it's a pretty big amount of money.
Yeah.
And so that was his counterpunch, don't back down, push forward,
And that's what you
keep
see
going.
him doing today.
It's exactly what I see
And then
him
Hillary
doing
Clinton
today.
calling her the devil.
I thought there was a shout out to a very conservative constituency that sees her as the devil, or at least a very evil force.
And this bothers you because?
I think that's really a dog whistle to, as part of a kind of rousing up racist, sexist, really conservative forces in this country that I think had been gradually, the country was moving beyond and past. And I think there's been a resurgence of that and a legitimization and a normalization of that in the process of this campaign. He didn't, it's all somewhat indirect, but not very indirect.
Yeah.
The birther thing that he came out with in 2011, that he began to take charge of, that whole idea was absolutely in the wind, and he got a huge response.
Yeah.
And that was a very thinly disguised attack against our first African-American president.
I've got to go. And I have to say, to be continued. It's a very interesting conversation, and I would love to have